disrupted.
Welcome to the Author Spotlight. On this episode, we are talking to Charles McCormack and his memoir, Healing of a Psychotherapist, Journey of Rebellion, Reflection, and Redemption. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Sarah,
for coming on our show. So let us know about your book and why we should read it.
Actually, I've written a number of books, well, a number actually, and then also some professional publications. But this book is The Love of My Life. And it's entitled Healing of a Psychotherapist because I've spent a lifetime thinking about the human condition and treating others, probably 50 years now. And along the way, I realized I needed to treat myself too. And so I entered lots of different therapies and psychoanalysis and things like that. And trying to figure out why I wasn't as happy as I thought I should be, because I had won a number of professional awards and achieved promotions where I was to the highest you could get where I was. And but I still wasn't happy. I started writing this book because my son asked me one day, he's tremendously successful. And he asked me one day, Dad, is this it? And I told him, I translated that to, is this what life is about? And then my daughter at a different time gave me a book for grandparents of questions for the grandparent to fill out for the grandkids. Except I liked the idea of it, but I didn't think they would really care that my favorite color was green. So I translated that to, she was asking me, who am I? And the attempt to answer my son's question joined together to inspire the beginning of this book. However, as I was writing it, a colleague of mine and a good friend kept telling me, this is a hero's journey. I kept telling him, this is about the human condition. And it wasn't until I saw some articles on Joseph Campbell, and who wrote the hero's journey, that I realized the two were one and the same. And so, and then since I'd spent 50 years thinking about the human condition and treating people and being treated, I developed a lot of awarenesses that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to develop otherwise, and that I've used in therapy throughout my life and continue to learn and grow. And so I began writing this book, the story of my own life, and also to figure out why aren't I as happy as I should be. It took me 7 years and not many iterations of the book, and taking reviews into account and changing the book because I thought the reviews resonated with me as constructive criticism and that kind of thing. So then it became finally Healing of a Psychotherapist, partly because of a critical review saying the acknowledgments should be put in the back and that kind of thing because they were long. And so that's why I replaced essence. Also, somebody had written that the title doesn't capture the quality of the book. And so that's how I got to the book today. And along the way, I realized what was holding me back was unacknowledged grief about my father. And so as I'm writing this book, lots of times I am crying as I'm just sitting there writing. And so over this time, I've been able to kind of forgive my father, who was abusive and a narcissistic. And so this talks about all of that as well as my journey with patients and colleagues, my first wife, and they all contributed to it. They all added in. So that's how I came to the book today in today's form.
And this is the second edition, because the first edition was called Essence.
Yes.
Right? And Essence won 2022. How do you say that again?
Montaigne Medal.
Which is an Eric Hoffer Book Award.
Yeah. And it's given for the most thought-provoking book in their competition. And there was like 2,600 books in the competition.
And I agree with changing the name. I think your current book name makes me understand what the book's about. For Essence, might not. If I was just looking, I mean, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but let's be honest,
Right.
we often judge a book by its cover. Oh, we all do. I've read books literally just because I thought the cover was nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, certainly it makes you open the cover to see what's underneath. So
definitely. Yes.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
I agree. I think that's great. And I was wondering, how do you feel that sometimes, the wounded healer, because oftentimes one of my close friends is a therapist, and she says you will not imagine how many are in this field just because we're all kind of, it's like we have empathy for others and are able to help others because we also have pain to heal.
Yeah, no, I agree with her completely. My mother always told me, Charlie, you're too sensitive from as early as I could remember. And because I thought about things a lot, even as a child. And so I was able to carry that forward. And I had a lot to think about given my relationship with my dad. And I grew up in a military family, so we were constantly moving, constantly uprooted. At age 11, I was sent to a French boarding school in Strasbourg, France, and didn't speak French. And I described my experiences there, which were abusive as well. So, I've had a lot to think about and to realize how, we learn our defenses in childhood to protect ourselves and to make our way survive in the world. And if you grow up in a more troubled setting, those defenses are in play, and they're on autopilot, and and the and they're, by definition, they're unconscious. So they're getting in our way constantly. So I think the more we become transparent to ourselves and unpack our stuff, the more we become aware of what's getting in our way of being as happy as, one of my titles of my book way back was As Happy as We Can Stand, or As Happy as I Can Stand. And it was talking about the way all my defenses were getting in the way of being able to enjoy the moment because of the risk of enjoying something and having it taken away.
Of course, yeah. It makes me think. So I had some trauma in my childhood too. And as an adult now, and I've gone through a lot of, like you, a
Yeah,
journey of healing.
yeah,
And sometimes I have to stop myself and be like, is this really what's happening? Or this is what is happening?
right,
Is it me, or is this a real situation and I have to take a step back to figure out how I actually feel? Or I go, like you were saying, on automatic.
right.
And then, yeah, and it's not necessarily what's actually happening. It's just my reaction to something I'm not actually in danger.
Right, right. But you could be.
Right. Well, yes, for the most part, as an adult now, I'm not.
Right,
But
right, right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a there's a risk to living life. And I think it takes, actually, it seems counterintuitive, but I think it takes courage to be happy, because uh, I think happiness, genuine happiness, requires integrity. It requires doing good things. It requires, contributing to the community and whatnot. Though I'm not very good at that part, I'm contributing in my own way. I'm an introvert, so I don't get out a whole lot. It's also the risk of losing again. And so what was in my way was just the ability to soak in what I was enjoying again, because I'm always expecting the next slap. My dad slapped me
Right.
a lot. So, and sometimes I wouldn't see it coming. I couldn't anticipate it. And so it's like unconsciously, I'm always ready for the next slap, looking out for the next slap. So it doesn't matter if the slap comes or not, because you're already in that mindset, you see, and then that'll definitely interfere with your capacity for happiness. So you got to be
Yeah,
willing to lower that defense and, and take the slap if it comes.
that's very
Otherwise, you
brave.
won't be able to live.
Yeah, and that's brave. You
Yes,
have to
it
risk.
takes courage. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely takes courage to
yeah,
jump
yeah,
into that unknown.
exactly. Yeah. As I say in my book, I finally figured out when I was in my early 20s that what I needed, and as I was in the business world, what I needed wasn't a job, it was a calling. And now I found my calling. I went on a 3-month camping trip till the money ran out. But on that trip down to Mexico, I ran into a psychologist because my car broke down, and he invited me to his ranchero. And we'd sit out there, and it was totally out in the middle of a field, and there was no indication of modernity. No lights, all were like butane lamps and stuff like that. And I was sitting on the front porch, and he and I would smoke a cigarette out there and drink tequila and talk. And then one night when I was sitting out there by myself, I saw these women with black shawls over their heads coming from across the field towards this village in the other direction that was a good distance away. And as they passed me by, none of them spoke to me or anything, but they were like, 50, 100 feet away. And yet I realized this could be 300 years back in time. It was just such an amazing experience. But living with that guy, he was a car mechanic, but before that, he had been a psychologist.
Wow.
And they put him into administration, and he hated administration, so he decided to become a car mechanic. And he fixed people's Volkswagens at their homes, and he impressed me so much. I realized he had done the ultimate realization. He had taken a dream and made it into a reality. So that's when on this journey I was also reading Carlos Castaneda and stuff like that, and I realized I think I want to be a psychotherapist. A word that had never been used in my family growing up, as we were a military family. You don't talk about psychotherapy in military families. So anyway, it's been I think all our lives are interesting. And I mentioned that too in the book. I love listening to people's stories.
And how life just kind of directs you if you're willing to look at where you need to go.
Yeah. And it's kind of, as you pointed out too, is that we kind of have these autopilot responses to our moving through life. An earlier title of my book was The Invisible Waters of Our Lives. And it was about how what we see as normal often isn't normal. It's just what we're used to. And so it doesn't even stand out for us as being problematic. Like I grew up in a somewhat abusive family, yet I thought it was an exemplary family until my therapist started challenging that notion. And then I was insulted until I started thinking about what he was asking. I said, yeah, you got a point there.
Maybe. Yes, so that's excellent. I can't wait to read your book. Well, that's all the time we have. I wanted to say thank you for coming on our show. And for our listeners, if you'd like to read Charlie's book, you can find it on our website, www.bookinterrupted.com. There'll be a link there, and it'll take you to his Amazon account. I guess the book on Amazon. And where else can we find your book, actually?
Just about everywhere. Barnes and Noble, Kobo. I don't know all the sites. But...
Okay, great. And we'll have a link for Amazon, or you could go to your local bookstore.
Yes.
Perfect.
Again, I thank you for your generosity of time and spirit.
Of course. Yes. I'm so happy we were able to do this.
Me too.
If you've enjoyed these video highlights, listen to the full episode on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified when new episodes are published. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com.
And we're gonna talk it out on Book Interrupted.